Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, 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 and one more time, welcome. It's been a while. It's been a while, and today we are going to talk Hamilton. Um, it's an interesting one. It's a very interesting one because let me just think a bit about Hamilton before I start to drop into the history. And it's saying that I'm drinking Red Bull because there is some history with Red Bull and Hamilton. So I'll get to that. But Hamilton is how do I put it? Hamilton is a very interesting one. So when I was looking at Hamilton, I really didn't know what to expect, and I'm not made, like, my mind is not made up on what I really think about the company. Well, not so much about the company, more about the timepieces, and we'll get to that. But what I do find very, very interesting is this notion of Hollywood has a certain flavor of the day, or it has this, like James Bond is using Omega, these guys are using that, and all of these things. Hamilton, and this is where I can't really get my head around it, Hamilton has been used in more than 500 films, which is a staggering amount of movies that it's been in. I first noticed it myself in Men in Black, I think it was, where it's a bit of a quirky design in it, and it's I honestly I it didn't tell me much, but it told me enough to actually start to look into it as a brand, and then from there on look into the history, the legacy, and all of these things. And it really is a fascinating story, to be honest, that I had no idea about. Having said that, it didn't give me answers to the point of, like, what do I really think about it. So that's what we're going to look at today. We are going to look at the Hamilton khaki. It's the navy, I think it's called, and it's the GMT, if I'm not mistaken. See how much I know my watches here. Let me be the first one to say I'm not a professional. I'm not an expert with watches, and this is just my take on it, right? If you haven't seen some of the other videos, obviously go and have a look, see there as well. Click subscribe, click like, drop me a comment on what you like and what you like to see next, and maybe I just have that watch on store, or potentially you could talk me into actually investing in it. So let's look at the history of Hamilton. So Hamilton is originally American-based company. So Hamilton is although it's Swiss made, the watches, I'll get to why it's Swiss made, but Hamilton was really a company that originated back in the 1890s. And one of the things, it was a collection of, or acquisitions of multiple companies. It was really an interesting story, because one of the things that I didn't look at, and to be honest, I look at wristwatches, but Hamilton actually was one of those companies that, in the wild west, the railroad road is everywhere. It was one of the watches, the pocket watches, you'll recall, the good old, have it in a pocket. Railroad, the rails, the trains are coming, right? The railroad is passing by, and you see the conductor, or not the conductor, the controller takes out his little pocket watch, maybe even like clicks it and it flips open, and then he's looking at it, if it's on time or not. More than 50% of all pocket watches around the time of the railroads was actually produced by Hamilton. Which is incredible. It is really an incredible story around an American-based company around the Lancaster area that grew such a significance in the revolutionizing technology, and the move from urbanization, the pre-urbanization into connecting the country, and all of these things. And it's not that they developed the railroads, but with more than 50% of all of the pocket watches sold, it was very much as well, we're keeping everything on track, right? We're measuring everything. And that was one of the things where that precision time mechanism, or that the focus on precision making really started there. And it was one of the things that became incredibly interesting for me as well, was when I was reading up on pocket watches, and especially, in the small little villages you have or something like that in the middle of nowhere. One of the things that Hamilton figured out really early on was, you need to make sure that you make a mechanism that makes it not open for dust. Because dust is at that time was the worst enemy. Dust, water, and what have you, right? It was the worst enemy of the piece. So what you had to make sure was that you made this little mechanism that made it almost immune to dust, right? And so one of the things that Hamilton actually pioneered was this whole thing about, like, how do we ensure that dust won't get into the mechanics on a pocket watch, which I have to admit, I did not know that at all. It never crossed my mind that actually came from Hamilton. That whole development of anti-dust and what have you, that Hamilton really started in that area of well, not only Hamilton but the Keystone Standard companies that was part of or being bought up by Hamilton, was really, like, it really had a significant impact. And to be honest, again, reading up on the brands and looking into what they've done and how they've done it really makes it super interesting. Not only that they've done all of these things, but it's the wealth of information that you actually get that you would not normally associate with a company that is, hey, it's American, because great timepieces is Swiss made from default, right? Or it's quartz, or so that means that it's the Asian side of it. But like the American timepiece that then developed the anti-dust mechanism, it's just, I mean, again, I've said it a couple of times, but and I like to use the word mind-blowing, because it is something that you don't normally think about. But could you imagine in today's date a watch that is open for dust? Not open for business, but open for dust, that dust can actually like enter. It's unheard of. It's like, if you have a watch now, regardless of what price you're paying, that's not water resistant, you were like, what is this? A piece of toy, right? And so we take these things for granted, but studying the history of these fascinating luxury brands, or Swiss-made brand watches, right, makes it just so much interesting to see what have they done. Now Hamilton then, and this is one of the things that then becomes incredibly exciting as well, is that not because of what happened, but what they did. And that is that because of the precision on the timepieces, and because of the incredible durability and the ability to more or less mass produce watches around the Second World War time, Hamilton becomes one of the prime deliverers of watches for the American military, or from the US military. And in the time of the beginning of the US entering into the war till the end of it, Hamilton mass produced more than 1 million timepieces for the armed forces there. A million pieces, and all of them in incredible quality, right? Precision timing, durability, strap, absolutely fantastic quality. And if you go in a rough terrain, you need something that is durable. Bam, Hamilton was your guy for that. And so that really becomes something that is truly remarkable in their history, that they had such a high presence on it. Now, one thing that becomes incredibly fascinating as well is that you might, if you look at Hamilton, you might stumble on the Hamilton Electric 500, I think it was called 400 or 500, which was after Second World War in 1956, 1957, where they actually came with the first watch, electrical watch with no moving parts. And to make things even better, they actually not only launched the watch, but they get the king of rock and roll, Mr. Elvis Presley, to wear one of their pieces in a movie that's called, what's it called, Blue Hawaii or Blue Honolulu, or I think it's Blue Hawaii, makes the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, wear one of their watches. And with that moment, rockets Hamilton into doing 500 appearances in movies. That's like, I don't even know any actor that's been in 500 movies. Hamilton, 500 movies more. The latest and the greatest, if you haven't checked out that timepiece, is I think Hamilton is also doing it for Tenet, the latest one that Christopher Nolan is doing. They have a bit of a, again, quirky design there, futuristic looking and what have you. Not my Men in Black style. I'm not that cool with that. But so imagine you have a timepiece that you send to the wall, you track the railroad. Then you get Elvis Presley to wear it. I think what's her name? The other one, Dietrich as well. Marlene Dietrich was wearing it at one point as well. I could be mistaken with that. But then, as that is not enough. Around 1968-69, what happens is that Hamilton is saying, well, you know what? We've been in the US, we've conquered the US, and you know what? Let's do something completely unheard of. And they go in, do a joint venture / acquisition with a Swiss-made company located in Switzerland that's called Boudin or Boudin. And with that, that just changed the name of the game for Hamilton. Hamilton is able to get Swiss-made in their watches, bang bang, and the company Boudin. If I mess up the word, forgive me for that one. My German Austrian, my German Swiss is a bit rusty. But what Boudin is doing then, or is able to capitalize on, is the mass production capabilities and uniqueness of design that Hamilton is having, which they've proven already over time. So that is like, the best of two worlds here. And there's a certain interest why Hamilton was so excited about being able to make this relationship or this joint venture / acquisition, and that was to get their hands on this Swiss making technology, right? We have this incredible legacy, we've got this incredible history, and yet we are not being appreciated as we should in terms of like our quality, our marksmanship, and all of these things, or craftsmanship. So we need to have that extra quality there, and that there, my friend, is Swiss made. It's the stamp of quality, right? It does not get better than that. You can be the finest watch brand in the world, you can be the most expensive one, but if you want to have the stamp of international recognition, you need to have Swiss made. Now they get that with this collaboration, right? And end up more or less just taking over the whole site in Switzerland. And by the end of the day, the history of Hamilton in Lancaster is we close the factory in Lancaster and move everything to the site that we have in Switzerland, hence making Hamilton now all of a sudden, yes, American made originally, but now all of a sudden, bing bing, Swiss made watches. And that there, my friend, is just, who saw that plot twist? Who saw that coming? I did not. For sure, I did not see that coming. So all of a sudden, you have what started as a 1890 company, right? The same age as IWC or the big ones, Omega, Rolex, and what have you, like the old ones, right? Like the early pioneers. The US all of a sudden saying, forget about us being in the US, we're moving everything to Switzerland, because for us, it really, really is not only about mass producing the watches, but it is to make sure we get that international recognition of our quality watches, and with that, really just move it to the next level in terms of appreciation for this brand. And for me, to be honest, this is a pretty interesting twist of events. I really did not expect that somebody with a strong and long history of having been so involved in the US community, in the US development and what have you, is able to say that. But hey, that there, my friend, that there is what we categorize as dedication to your craft, right? It is absolute dedication to your craft. It's, it doesn't get more than that in terms of we are willing to do whatever we need to do that. Unfortunately, and there is an unfortunate side on it, it's not one of those stories that ends as a fairy tale where we move to Switzerland, become Swiss made, and you know what, we just become the next big thing compared to Rolex or even Tag Heuer, Omega, and what have you, IWC. No, unfortunately, my friends, that is not how the story ends. The story ends with the fact that the product, the watches that Hamilton is producing, however great quality it is, however Swiss made it is, it just doesn't sell to the client. Clients want something else, and by the end of the day, Hamilton ends up being bought by the Swatch Group and becomes a selfly independent or a unique part of that group, but they lose complete ownership over their business. A bit of a pity, maybe, yes, but hey, it's a very tough industry to be in when we're talking about luxury timepieces, Swiss-made timepieces, that you really need to make sure that your business model is not only performing well, but is also something in time or over time will be growing, and you will have a certain loyal fan base, if you will. I know it sounds like almost like a, like are we now talking about popularity and all of these things. I would say it might sound like a bit of a joke, but if you do go to Rolex, if you have a Rolex, there's a high probability that you're never going to go away from Rolexes, because there's a certain amount of, not only is it potentially one of the best brands in the world, it's not the most expensive brand, but it is the benchmark against which we do everything, right? And Hamilton is not able to build that into their branding, into their marketing, and into, where we're gonna take it next. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't have great pieces at all. It doesn't mean that there is no place in your collection for a Hamilton. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that for you to really stand out as the timepiece brand, if you will, you really, really need to have something truly, utterly unique where it just becomes bang, right? It's there. Now, it doesn't mean as well that you can't be owned by another company. We will see that, and we have seen that many companies, they have, big investment companies coming and buying up the rights and all of these things, giving them capital injections and what have you, and all of these things. And that's fine and nice as long as they're true and honest to their agenda and their original, legacy and history. And do I think Hamilton is that? Well, yeah, I do think that they are, because the legacy that they have is really, really fascinating, right? In 1926, Admiral Byrd flew to the North Pole, right? North Pole. Why? Well, because we could, right? And circling the North Pole for like, 13, 14 minutes. I don't know exactly the time, but he was using a Hamilton piece to measure with, right? Hamilton was there, bang, 1926, right? Wristwatch, one of the first wristwatch, electronic or electrical, right? There we go as well. And it just continues, right? It just continues. Collaboration with ETA, where they did the H8, H7, H30, and all of these things. Absolutely incredible piece of work that they've done there. And then you see that there's so much passion and so much history with what they've done, and it's an avatar aviation. That's the word. Sorry, not avatar. Aviation watch, right? It's up there with the Breitlin's, all of these different things, where Breitling has been able to do tremendous amount of incredible pieces, very expensive, incredible pieces. Side note here, I am looking to pick up another Breitling. I have to admit that. And if I can get it, you will see it. But I absolutely love that company as well. But now back to Hamilton. Side note. So it becomes this, well, we've got a history of robustness, and we've got the history of precision. We've got a history of doing all of this really great craftsmanship. We're Swiss made, but unfortunately, it just wasn't what the people were looking for, right? And so it does become a bit of a sad story almost. Now, there is this fancy word which is called Renaissance. Renaissance, in its purest format, means something like rebirth. Okay, and so what I think is happening right now is that Hamilton is about to go through their own renaissance. I think that they are able to, or they are just about to hit the point where they are doing or planning to do a massive comeback. And I can understand why that is. Honestly, I can. I think it's an incredibly rich history where a lot of the patents that they have done patents. One of the ones that I was mentioning was the whole thing with the dust capsule, right, where dust doesn't enter for pocket watches. That then got taken and then looked at further, and then now it is basically something that we've taken to the next level in a normal wristwatch as well. So there are bits and pieces that has been inspirational for other watchmakers over the history or the time from the 18, I don't know why I'm saying 19 all the time, 1890s up until today. And that there really is amazing. It's truly amazing. The battery reserve that you have on it as well is it's actually pretty fascinating. And so, like, do I buy into the renaissance that they have? I think that actually I do. I already bought one, right? So I'm not gonna sell it. Do I think that there is room for a Hamilton in your watch collection or in your yeah, I do. Do I think it's going to go massively up in price as a great investment? I don't think so. I don't think so. But I will say this: if you only buy timepieces for investment and never buy anything for pure fun, I'm sorry, you're missing out a hell of a lot of fun. Because if you are passionate about timepieces, you do need to once in a while buy something that you just want to have fun with, right? And does it go up in value? Not necessarily. Is it gonna drop a couple of bucks in value? Maybe, but who cares? It's fun to wear, right? It's fun to take out on a spin, right? I mean, that's one of the things that you also have to take into consideration. And I think that any serious watch collector have at least a handful of watches where they can say, yeah, I don't think that they're gonna double, triple, or quadruple in price over the next 10, 15 or ever, but I'm gonna wear them anyways because they are a lot of fun. Now, I can tell you, I have watches that I know they most probably will not lose too much value. They're not that expensive, but I don't really care because I want them in my collection because they are that great of a watch. One of them is one of the Divers watches. By the way, everybody, if you're building a watch collecting, you have to have a Divers watch. You have to have that. And I'm not talking about something like a normal one that, hey, they can go down to 200 meters. No, I'm talking about a real proper diver's one, right? And that's why I have one of mine. The first watch I had was a Citizen diver's watch. And I just recently bought the latest version of it, only 20 years later or something like that. Is it going to increase in price? No. Is it fun to wear? You bet it is. It's absolutely incredible. And am I happy with it? Look at my face. I am like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. I love that piece. Is it $1,000 for? No, it's not. Is it gonna go and be like $20,000 at one point? If I become famous, maybe yes. But I don't have any plans on that. But it's just a fun piece to have in my collection. Everybody needs to have a dress watch. Everybody needs to have a diver's watch. If you don't have that in your collection, start getting one right now. And for diver's watches, I'm telling you, I have my Citizen is lined up just so I can start to review that for you as well, because it is just, it's the top. It does not get better than that. You can talk about G-Shock, you can talk about Casio, you can talk about all of these different things. Okay, no. That one, Citizen, bang. But back to Hamilton. Now, is Hamilton something I would wear normally? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I'll show you why. Because bang, 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 bang. There we go. Now, I have to admit, I bought this. It's not a brand new one. It's dated. I actually, and that's how I do it. I typically look for something in mint condition. I look for it packed in original box, and I look at it for or with papers as well. And if you can get it on a good, decent price, why the hell not? Because, you know, if you are buying a 2008 model, and today we're talking 2021, most probably it's already lost the value it's going to lose. So yeah, it's not really going to get that much worse. And that's what I decided to do with Hamilton. I will tell you, there are watches that I will buy brand new just because. Hamilton is not one I was interested in buying as brand new, because it didn't tell me much. I still think the history is incredibly cool, but there's just something with this one that it just doesn't resonate. Now, the box is cool. It's fairly heavy. And again, you can say whatever you want to, but you know, it's am I showing it right? I think I am. It's really, really nicely printed and all of these different things. And you know what? I think the thing that generally speaking gets me a bit turned off is if the manual to the timepiece I buy is the size of a phone book. Why am I saying that? Look, I had to do three videos on YouTube, right? God knows how many videos on Facebook before somebody was able to explain to me I should turn my telephone around because it's better quality. That's how anti-technical I am. I can't program worth a damn on a television. If the channels are not there, hey, I'll live with what I have. I have a mirror on my MacBook here. And the problem I have with that is that because my telephone is like this, on my MacBook, it's like this. And I don't know how to flip it. That's my technical abilities, ladies and gentlemen, for you right there. They're very, very limited, incredibly limited. And you expect me to read a goddamn phone book. That's not going to happen. So already there, I'm out. Now, I will tell you that although I'm out, I am not that out when it comes to the packing of it. Like, the box actually is incredibly well made. And again, mind you that I paid around $300 for it, right? So around 350 plus 350 euros. And that's including shipment. So around 320. So that would be almost, I would think around $350 for this one. The box in itself, that's okay. That's okay. Now, what happens is, and this is where This is what it looks like. Dook, dook. Can you see it? Can you see it? Right there, you get it. Now there is a couple of things, and it's not bad. It really is not bad, but I will tell you what stands out to me right from the beginning. Right from the beginning, right? There's a bit of it's the design of it. It's actually pretty cool. I the bracelet, the bracelet is absolutely a no go for me. Like right off the bat, it's a no go for me. I don't mind stitching, right? And the one that I'm wearing now, right? If you see, you can see it's stitched, right? So that I don't mind the stitching. It's just for me, it just it looks weird. The second thing is it's is it plastic? Is it leather? What is it? It's like when you look at it, it looks, for me, no offense to Hamilton, it looks very artificial, right? I mean, let me just see what I mean. It looks rubbery. But then, like, and I understand that you want to make it solid, rubbery, and all of these things. But then, why would you do the stitching on it? That makes no sense for me. Absolutely no sense. I let me just change my current one to this one so I can actually stick it on, and you can see what it looks like. Okay. Does it have cool functions? Yeah, so it's got this khaki inside, right? It's got the navy as well printed inside. So you kind of know that this is absolutely quality, right? So like, yeah, I mean, can you argue with, let me just move it and see if I can get my face here. Can you argue with the coolness of the inside of it, where it's almost like yin and yang? Can you argue with that? No, not necessarily. I don't think that that's not cool. And there is another cool feature on it. And so that's actually pretty cool, right? There is, that the twist dial, right? So you also have that functionality. You have one thing that actually is really, really cool. And that is, look at the dial now. Let me try and see if I can get it. So look at that. And that there is what I think is actually very, very cool. Now, what it does is that it's got the harbors, or the shipping locations, and sea accesses on, for example, this one here is Jumeirah Beach. There's I think it's Puerto Rico as well. There's a bunch of other ones there, which actually, that there, credit for that. That is really, really, that's a cool feature. What does it allow you to do? Well, imagine you have the inside, right? The inside, now it's not set at all, because I'm just unboxing it. But you have that now, it's striking 6 o'clock, right? Now, what you then do is that you move the inside of it, right? And then all of a sudden, what you have is a second time zone. And so that's actually really, really cool. So you have your primary time zone, and then you have a backup time zone or an additional time zone. Now, if you travel a lot, that is actually something that's really, really cool. So I used to travel a lot, and I used to travel with so I'm sitting in Europe, so I used to travel to the US, where there's at least 6 hours of time difference, depending on time, like if it's wintertime or summertime, 7 hours, right? And so that would be something where you just plug it in, and then when you land, you don't need to change anything. Because trust me when I say, having to change the time and all of these things back and forth when you travel a lot, that's a nightmare. I used to travel a lot to Dubai as well, before we had all of this lockdown stuff. So I'm in Dubai now, where the difference is from where I am 6 hours, right? And then I am in the US, where there's another 6 to 8 hours, and it's just back and forth. and it becomes incredibly tedious to do that all the time. We sold it for you, Martin. Thank you very much. Hey, thanks, Hamilton. Appreciate that. So that really, really is cool. Inside as well, one of the nice little features on it is, if you look at the date, white, right? So the white on white. And what is then really, really interesting, actually, and I find that pretty cool, actually, is that if you really close up, you can see where it says the port. So this one is the beach, right? Jumeirah Beach. You can see that it's like underscored with red. Kind of like, hey, this is, important for you. And yeah, it is. It's actually pretty cool. So that there is, I actually, credit for that. And to be honest, for you to be able to do that you have the mechanics to change it internally like that with another crown, right? So there are 3 crowns on it, but to add that functionality, that there, ladies and gentlemen, most probably it is not something that's just, walk in the park. That takes craftsmanship. Now, and that's what I want to get back to. Is this a solid piece? Absolutely. Absolutely solid piece. I can drop this on the ground and it will still work. I guarantee you. Am I going to hammer on it? No. If I give this to my 2-year-old son and he plays around with it, it is still going to work. For sure, it's still going to work. It doesn't come with a Navy stamp on it because it's a piece of rubbish. Trust me on that. It is very high quality. For the amount of money that you pay for this, so the $350 for this, the amount of money that you pay for this versus what you get for it, there is no doubt in my mind that you're getting a lot of watch for a very, very good price. Absolutely do not disagree with that. And so the whole thing about, is it a good watch? There is no doubt in my mind that it is a really, really good watch. It just is, I don't find it very appealing on my wrist. It's not something I would wear, to be honest, if I have alternatives, which in my case, I do. But is it bad? It's not bad at all. For me, the problem I have with Hamilton, it is not the mechanics, it is not the quality, and it certainly is not the price. The pure problem I have with this one here is the design just doesn't tell me anything. That's it. And it's as simple as that. Do I think that there's room in your collection for Hamilton? Or you better believe it. You better believe that there is room in your collection for Hamilton. And you know what? You might actually love the design. And for that, hey, good for you. Respect. I have nothing against that. Me personally, doesn't tell me anything. And it has nothing to do with the price point of it. I have watches that are the same. I have watches that are more expensive. I have watches that are less expensive. But it doesn't change the fact that the design of this specific one, it does not tell me anything. It really doesn't. This one is going to be archived as I have it in my collection. And maybe this is going to be something that when my son gets older, he's going to say, Dad, you know what? I actually like this. Can I play around with it? I would say, yeah, sure, go for it. But this is not something I would wear on a casual Thursday at all. This is not something I would wear going swimming. It just, with me, for me and my style, it doesn't sit. It just doesn't sit. It's not something it doesn't talk to me or my personality at all. But I will go back to what I said already, friends, and that doesn't mean it's a bad watch at all. Not at all. But there are a couple of things when you are thinking about timepieces, when you're thinking about watches, when you're thinking about should I or should I not. And one of the things, and I think that many people make that mistake, is to say, well, the mechanics is amazing, it's awesome, it's the best, right? Swiss made, this made, blah, 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 blah. The mechanics is incredibly important. Don't get me wrong, it's incredibly important. But so is the design. Because by the end of the day, if you wear a watch that is butt ugly, but the mechanics is amazing, you're wearing a butt ugly watch. And the mechanics can be number one in the world, but it's still butt ugly. I wouldn't wear that. So you have to consider that as well. And I think when you're making your collection, when you're building your collection, the choice of watches, timepieces for you should be a mixture of something that talks to your personality, something that completes your personality, and build on that, gives dimension to your personality, and not just it was cheap or it was incredibly expensive or the mechanics. No, it has to be something that just feels right. When you put it on, it just feels right. It looks right. It shouldn't be too big. It shouldn't be too small. It should be like just exact. Hamilton, for me, this specific piece, not saying others could not fit the bill. This one doesn't fit the bill for me at all. And that's fine. Mechanics, bingo bongo, it's on spot. It's on spot. It's Swiss made, right? It's great. It is great. I mean, like there's, and again, by the way, maybe you can see it here, right? You can see Swiss made. So they have the quality stamp. Anything that's Swiss made nowadays have to go through an incredible rigorous process of stamps. Yes, you are indeed a Swiss made watch. And again, mechanics, fantastic. History, awesome. Design, no. I am sorry, Hamilton. This is a redo. But here is a wonderful thing about picking and choosing what fits your style. What doesn't fit me might fit you, right? And what fits you might not fit me. And there is no need to argue over if it's great or if it's not great, because amazing is really in the eye of the beholder. Now, I can tell you that I think that Rolex is an incredible watch, and I would much prefer a Rolex over a Audemars or a Hublot. I could easily say that. And I could easily hear people saying, no, Hublot is much nicer. Great, that's your opinion, right? But I can also tell you that IWC is better for me than a Rolex is. I can also say that. But it doesn't mean that you have to agree on it. You might be a diehard fan and fanatic of Omega Speedmaster or like this or that. And you're like, no, Martin, this is the best watch in the world. That's very intangible. So it's up for you to define what you like and what you don't like. And then at that point, you start to look at the mechanics. Is it Swatch? Is it Quartz? Is it this? Is it that? Is it ETA? Is it homemade, in-house, blah, blah, blah. All of these different things. Great. Good for you, right? Good for you. But saying it's a bad watch or a good watch, that there is ignorance. And that is a conversation we should not even start to have, right? You like it, great, good for you. You don't like it, that's also great. But I don't have... Could I fall in love with it? I doubt that. I doubt that. I'll try and then report back to you what I think about it. There are neat features, right? There are very neat features on it. There is the white inside, the red inside, as I mentioned on the dial bar that moves around. Those are cool things. Don't get me wrong, those are cool things. The fact that this is an ultra robust watch that I don't think I can actually break, and I can break basically anything. Cool. I think it's very, very cool. It's just design. 10 points on the quality of the clockwork, the mechanics. I don't know how many points I would give it on the design, because for me, it really doesn't resonate. So again, what can I say about that? Do I regret buying it? Not at all. Not at all. I'm happy that I bought it. I'm actually really, really happy because it's like rule of elimination, just a bit more expensive, right? And that is you kind of figure out what brands you're not into, what designs you're not into, only to figure out which brands designs you're very much into. And that's great. I know that Hamilton as a fashion brand is very high on the list, but I think honestly that's the Hollywood spin on it. I don't think that if they weren't in 500 films or more than 500 films, I don't think this would be selling a lot at present moment. I don't think so, because the only uniqueness with this extreme piece, or not extreme piece, sorry, with this piece is the fact that you can have the multiple time zones and that you can move the rim or the inside. I think that's it. But besides that, design wise, there is not much going with it. There is, when you're looking at the inside, the dial inside, there is nothing unique about that. Really, it's good. Again, for the amount of money that you pay for this, can you expect the world? No, you can't. And that's fine. That's fair. Um, and that's it. But as a fashion brand, maybe it is a fashion statement. I don't know. I mean, like, would I think that you're more fashionable wearing this versus Seiko, for example? No, I don't think so. The price ranges, you can get a good Seiko for around 300 and 350 as well. To be honest, I most probably would prefer a Seiko on that. Um, can you compare it with Rolex? Could you compare it with Jaeger? No, of course you can't. But you can't. It's not the same price range. For the price point, this is very, very decent. It's very decent. You get a lot of bang for your bucks with this one. You really do. You get a part of an incredible history, right? Railroads, Second World War, North Pole, Elvis Presley, if that's one of the things that you are into. There you get that as well. Men in Black, Hollywood favorite, darling. You get all of these different things at a really, really good price. And so if you're just starting to build your collection, maybe you want to look at Hamilton as one of your beginning points or your beginning pieces. And then from there, you use that as your own benchmark as you move up in your collection, as you broaden your collection, as you define what you're interested in doing with your watch collection, right? And as I said, you know what? I hear this a lot on blogs and on videos and all of these things. I'll take a slightly different point of view on this. I hear a lot of people that are saying, yeah, you should only invest in watches that are on timepieces that's going to go up in price and all of these things. That's like, if you buy stock, you should only buy on low and sell on high. That's easier said than done, right? There's no way of knowing what will go up in price and what will go down in price, right? There is not. There's a rule of thumb. There's a rule of thumb that if you are buying uniqueness, if you're buying specific brands and all of these things, there's a higher probability, limited editions, blah, 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 all of these things. But here's the thing. If you are setting out to build your collection like I did when I was getting my first paycheck when I was 18 years old. Actually, I think I was 17 at that time. But if you were setting out to do that and you buy a Rolex at that time, you're making bucket loads more money than I am. Good for you. Good for you. But if you are not, and you are making a lot less money, then you can buy for pleasure. You can buy for fun. And then over time, you will start to really be passionate about it, really love watches and all of the different things, the history, the brands, blah, blah, blah. You get borderline addicted to it and what have you. And you can upgrade on it. And it can become an investment for you. And that's fine. But saying that buying a watch must be an investment, otherwise you're stupid, you're this, like, I don't buy into that nonsense. I don't buy into that nonsense at all. Once in a while, you want to have something that's just, casual, fun. Is it going to go up in price? No, but, I wear it like, for 6 months or 12 months or what have you, and then it served its purpose. Is there something bad in that? No, 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 no. You don't want to you don't want to listen to the fanatics, right? By the end of the day, you have to find your own way. You have to find your own style. You have to do it in a way that does not cause you to be more stressed, have anxiety, and all of these different things. Because collecting watches is it's incredible. It's fun. It's passion. It's all of these different things. But if you start to look at it like all of the gurus and all of the experts that will tell you that, hey, this is, you must have this or you must have that, you will get demotivated right from the beginning. Find out for yourself. I can tell you that buying a 50 euro watch is most probably not going to be something that is ever going to go up in price. And that's fine. Buying 100 pieces of 100 watches for 50 euros versus buying one for the same price of that, I know which one I would choose. Okay, so there is a bit of being smart in these things. What's your budget? What can you allow? Do you want to wait a bit? Are you going to save a bit? And so on and so forth. And so there are some that you can buy right away, and there are others that you want to save for, and that's fine and okay as well, right? And so you build out your collection, and step by step. You're not in a rush. You won't have the biggest watch collection ever anyways, because that's intangible as well, right? So it's time, and it's what are you looking for? Find what you really, really love, the design that speaks to you, and go for that, right? I have to admit, now I'm gonna piss off a bunch of people. I have to admit that I will most probably at a time get an Omega. I most probably will look at getting an Omega. But is that high on my to-do list? Not at all, because it doesn't tell me anything. There are watches that I would prefer to get at the same price range that I can get Omega for, that I rather have, because the design speaks more to me, and mechanics is more or less the same, so I'm not losing anything there. It's just, it doesn't tell me anything, right? So you don't need to have these things figured out right from the beginning, right? But you wanna make sure that you find your own style, and with that you keep growing, right? You keep developing. You understand the dimensions of yourself, what it adds of value to you, how it actually complements you, and how it makes your style go a bit extra, right? In this case, Hamilton doesn't do that for me. Simple, right? And again, no harm, no foul, right? If you're starting out, as I said, I think you should look at Hamilton. Honestly, I do think that. For the price point, incredibly generous. Mechanics, absolutely top spot, right? Absolutely top spot. Design, that's what has to be decided by you, because the design for me doesn't tell me anything, right? And I'm okay open with design, but Hamilton designs really honestly does not tell me much. It doesn't. It's like Storm. I don't know if you ever heard about that, the brand, watch brand, and whatever else they do now. Storm. They don't tell me anything. I'm not interested in it, because it's not something that I would put on my hand and say, look, this is part of me. It doesn't represent anything to me. Does that mean it's a bad one, it's a bad investment? No, it doesn't. It just means Martin doesn't like it. And so with what you get for 350 bucks is really, really good. Honestly, it is very, very good. You get quality, you get this beast here. It's a great watch. It is a great watch. It's great legacy. It's really, really fascinating history. They have achieved a lot as a brand. As a company, they've achieved a hell of a lot. But where they lose me personally is just because of the design. Pure and simple. There is nothing to do but to take this beautiful piece, put it back in the box, take the phone book, slap it on top of it, rebox it, and say, Hamilton, not this time around. I'm sorry. For me, it's a no-no. It is. And I do love Elvis Presley, his music. I am a fan of films and what have you. That just isn't gonna cut it for me. All in all, I'm not disappointed. I think I did expect something else. I think I maybe did not have the right expectations to what would come for that amount of money. Again, mechanic-wise, amazing. Design-wise, there's much to be asked for there, in my opinion. So that there goes back on the shelf. Again, as I mentioned, I don't regret at all to have bought it. Absolutely not. It's test, try, and error. That's what it is for me. And I have that. I have that with other brands that I'm looking at right now. I have one that's coming hopefully tomorrow, right, that I bought as well, which is the first time I actually bought this specific brand. And we will see what I think about it. But am I going to regret these things? No, my life is not set up to regret what I buy. I believe that eventually my son, when he starts to get older, he would get a lot of fun with that as potentially one of his first pieces. And I hope that he will start to share my passion and my joy with timepieces, watches, and the whole love for that. And that's a great piece for him to start with. Robust, incredible mechanics. It's basically unbreakable. Hell, if you're sending 1 million pieces of Hamilton watches to Second World War and you know, yeah, their quality, right? They're not gonna break. So I mean, cool. I'm nothing there. Great starting point. Build over time. Increase your collection. And honestly, I think that there is room in your collection for a Hamilton. Absolutely. Is it gonna be khaki navy, or is it gonna be another one? Who knows? Up to you. Look at the design. Look at the design. You, in this case, I can tell you what I know about the mechanics, what I know about what's inside of it. This is as good as it gets, right? You don't have to worry about, is it gonna work? It's gonna work, but you need to find a design that fits with you, that sits proper with you. Then Hamilton is your brand. And again, I mean, value, right, is what you're getting, right? Price is what you're paying for it. And I absolutely think that there's value in Hamilton, right? Again, maybe I should look at the pocket watches and see what they've got there, if they've got anything interesting. But who knows, right? Great experience. Loved the studying. Loved to figure out all of the stuff that is going on with Hamilton. Loved to have a look at, you know, the fascinating story of like an American company turned Swiss made, and all of these different things, the ups and downs, the importance, the history, the legacy, what have you, all of these things. Loved reading about these things. Loved looking at that. And again, I mean, that's why I do these videos, because I want you to look at it as well and say, this is something I'm worth, or that's worth looking into as well. I want to learn more about these things. And, you know, if you can do that, or if you want to do that, then, you know, that's achievement from me, right? So it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It really is brilliant. I just wouldn't want to wear it. It just does not tell me anything. Purely, as I've said, purely from look and feel, not the mechanics. The mechanics, spot on. Nothing to be said about that. Design didn't sit with me. So unfortunately, on to the next one. And luckily, I've got a lot of really, really cool ones that is more my type, a lot more my type, right? So that's gonna come. So stay tuned for that one. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope that it's been insightful. And again, I hope that I haven't demotivated you to look up Hamilton. On the contrary, I hope I've motivated you to go and have a look at it for yourself. See what you think about it. If you love the design, let me know. If you think that you haven't really made up your mind, well, let me know as well. And if you do not agree with the design, like I don't agree or I don't appreciate the design, let me know as well. This is about it for this time around. Next week, we've got another exciting drop. So stay tuned for that. Don't forget to click subscribe. Don't forget to give me a bit of like and love. And have a look at some of the other things that we've done so far. And by the end of the day, I hope that you yourself are starting to get a lot more passion for watches, because that there is one of the coolest things ever. You can never have too many, as they say to women or about women, you can never have too many jewelry as a woman. For men, you can never have too many watches in your collection. So till next time, stay safe, be careful out there with all of this virus going on and what have you. And again, keep your head up, right? Keep your head up. Don't listen to all of the naysayers on what you should and should not have in your watch collection. Figure it out for yourself. Let me know if there's anything I can help with. You can find me on my Facebook page, or you can drop me a message anywhere, anytime. That's it for this time around. Take care, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.